Welcome to my session. You are with Emeritus Professor Stephen Adei, and I'm going through the series Leadership for Everyone, Everywhere. I am now on family leadership, and specifically, my topic for today is how to be a super wife. Super wife. How to be a super wife and influence your husband. Since I've talked about the general things, I want to now go through quickly 13 points of how to be a super wife and win the heart of any man, no matter how macho he tries to behave initially. First is that, like your husband, submit to God, to Christ as Lord in your own personal life. Live an authentic Christian life before Him. A person of integrity, honesty, accountability. Be a Christian and be yourself, not a hypocrite. And the flip side is to, number 2, learn to submit to your husband. And submission here is not being, the doormat. Anyway, no husband will eventually like a wife like that, even though initially some of them want to beat the spirit out of their wife. This is incredible. When you were courting, you were respecting and trying to woo her. But when I mean submission, is that don't try to deal with your husband headlong in argument, in controversies, and everything else. And it's not because you are not a strong woman, you don't have your views. But I tell you, largely because of how men are constituted, most of them cannot stand it. And eventually, they will behave in a way you don't like. That is what, to me, it's not that you don't bring your views to the table, you don't discuss things, but where there's a difference, learn how to manage it. Not by meeting him headlong. Please, it will be like an articulator and a Tigo or Vitz meeting headlong. You may be bruised. And it's not your fault, it's more likely his fault. You may be more educated, oftentimes true, may be more intelligent, have a high level of intuition. However, respect him for what he is. He is a man. He was made different. He may sometimes behave like your son, the boy, but that was what made you did not marry another woman, though these days people are thinking that you can marry another same sex, which we Christians think it's abhorrent and it's not what God ordained. So, being different means that in some areas, you will be far superior, as in few areas or more areas, he will also be. So learn to respect. When you go to work, you respect your boss. Not because your boss is better. He may be an expert in one area, but all of you work together as a team for the good of the company. Learn his needs and try to meet it. Especially his needs, as I mentioned at the last time, for sexual fulfillment, for companionship, to have a physically attractive wife, his need for domestic support, and for admiration. Know your husband, know his shortcomings, and try to complete him also. Next, Let him know that you seek his success. Help him to succeed. God used the term a helper fit for him. You know, our the godson, who was just a graduate of junior secondary school, he was actually one of those upholsters by the roadside. I asked him to do some work, cut a piece of fake leather and put in my boot so that it doesn't, my new car's boot will not soil with my plantain juices, which I love to carry. But as I talked to him, I knew that this is an intelligent boy who had not gotten the opportunity. So we became friends, and soon he came and told me that he wanted to marry a woman. I said, which woman is that? The woman is a first-class graduate from Cape Coast University. I said, boy, you are bold. Now, what did I do? In this case, on the wife, I actually stood in for the wife without her knowing and encouraged this boy, went to Wisconsin University, passed well, did a second degree at Accra Technical, now doing his master's, and in his home, he is really the respected husband. Of course, I'm not going to know your husband to do that for your husband. Even when you are ahead, be a helper and help your husband to succeed. He won't become the husband you want. Be a helper, right for him. People think that the Bible only says that the husbands should love their wives. In Titus 2:4, wives are commanded to teach younger women, the older women, to teach the younger women to love their husbands, because love is an art to be learned. Agape love, God's love, is shared abroad not only in the heart of men, but of women. But in the Titus passage, it talks about friendship love, companionship, and of course, there's fill him with sexual romantic love. If you want to be a super wife, never nag your man. You know, sometimes you think that he hasn't heard, so you have to repeat it 10, 20 times. No, he has heard it. Sometimes he's just trying to process it. You are ahead of him by your high level of intuition. Don't nag your husband. The Bible says a nagging wife is like a roof with leak, sleeping under a roof, which is leaking and raining like it has been raining this year. Please, be tender, be loving, but never be manipulative. Never, in other words, don't try to trick your husband and get him to do things your way so that he will not know it. As soon as your husband finds that you are trying to manipulate him, he becomes rebellious. Don't manipulate him. Be a contented CEO in the home and manage things, manage the resources well. Fill the gap. In London, where I worked for 3 years with the Commonwealth Secretariat, it was interesting. Some of the train stations, the train comes, the underground train, and there's a small gap between the embankment where we are standing and then the train. And as soon as the train is coming, you hear on the sound, the announcement, mind the gap, mind the gap. Because, you know, if you are not careful, you may fall between that crack. Please, mind the gap with your husband. Oftentimes, your husband may be the president, may be the big man or software things. There are weaknesses, and you have the privilege of filling the gap, minding the gap. In this case, minding it. And she will be the most happy to see that he has a helper fit for him. Be the Abigail, whose husband, unfortunately, was a fool and had so offended David. David and his men, with 400 men, were just going to slaughter all the people in the house. David had vowed, even by tomorrow this time, there's one soul left in his house. You say in my language, since I'm a nice impam, make my leg into the for the yam post. But Abigail immediately heard about it, prepared to go and meet and face David, and confronted him. How dare you embark on this bloodshed? And next time you become a king, you will be having this blot against you. Persuaded him and then gave him some gifts. No wonder when the husband heard it and collapsed, David went for her because he said, this wise woman, I need her in my bedroom. Please fill the gap. Pray for him. Take care of his children when he is not able. Even your in-laws, his parents and people, you must be ahead trying to meet their needs even before she will know about it, because you are likely to discover the mother's need quicker than him. Fill the gap. Be a partner of your husband. Take responsibility. And even taking the initiative when his ego is preventing him to do so, to resolve areas of conflict. When your sex life is not going on, don't nag him. Try to find solution, discuss it. Is he having challenges in his workplace or what? Most men are not able to handle some of the pressures they go through and to affect their relationship with you and the bedroom. You are to be a helper. About communication problems, be the one. About in-law problems, don't think that the mother is the witch. If the mother was the witch, she would have given some of that to the husband to become a wizard. Now you cannot have a husband and then hate the mother. You are destroying your relationship. About the children, help him to take care of the children. About money, let me hear say that oftentimes I see the modern people that I love. Each one is a professional. Each keeps his money and says, you should take care of the rent. You should take care of the children's school fees. So what happens when one loses their job? No. Learn to work together. Bring your resources together. And you know what? You, the woman, can take the lead. I must say that even though my attitude to marriage was, thank God, a bit more positive than my average colleague male, I was shocked when we married. The first month, during the time when we were paid, our salaries were so small, we were paid in an envelope, physical envelope, at the end of the month. They go and get the money and put yours in this envelope. And the first month, my wife comes home with her envelope. I said, what is it? He said, oh, that's my salary. I said, what do you want me to do with it? He says, your business, you are the husband. Please. That is it. And for 50 years of marriage, she never handled money. Do you know the type of trouble and responsibility that I had? To meet all her needs, to be accountable, and everything else. And the fact is that after some time, she decided to look after the kids. But then her gesture meant my money is her money, and her money is my money. We budgeted together. He knew where all the resources were going to, except that he was averse to handling any money. Please, lead in resolving challenges. Above all else, and this is true for the man as for the woman, be committed to your marriage vows. Stand by each other for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death. You can and must be a super wife, and you will be surprised how much you will influence your husband and be a leader in your home. Shalom, and may the Lord be with you. Please don't forget that every Saturday, 8:30 on ZFM 101.9, you will hear me continuing this another series. And if you miss it, remember, you can catch up on the YouTube of Professor Emeritus Stephen Adei. The Lord be with you.